Greetings, YouTube. Today I bring you a story of two members of the GOP. The first story is one State Representative Sally Kern from Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't fare well in this video, so if you're from Oklahoma, you have my sympathy. But I will not tolerate what I'm about to talk about that's coming out of Oklahoma Republicans. She has put forth 3 bills. First one, the Preservation and Sovereignty of Marriage Act, would literally defund same-sex marriage. No employee of this state and no employee of any local governmental entity shall officially recognize, grant, or enforce a same-sex marriage license and continue to receive a salary, pension, or other employee benefit at the expense of taxpayers of this state. No taxes or public funds of this state shall be spent enforcing any court order requiring the issuance or recognition of a same-sex marriage license. Kern, who invokes religion frequently, and penned a book titled The Stoning of Sally Kern. Funny she's still around. The liberal attack on Christian conservatism and why we must take a stand. Labels the need for her and the law as an emergency. Quoting her, it being immediately necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, and safety, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, by reason whereof this act shall take effect and be in full force from and after its passage and approval. Their second bill attacking the gay community is the Freedom to Obtain Conversion Therapy Act, which is aimed at ensuring parents are legally enabled to force their children to undergo therapy based on junk science and religion that most medical organizations have labeled harmful, dangerous, and ineffective. Quoting, the people of this state have a right to seek and obtain counseling or conversion therapy from a mental health provider, which these people aren't, in order to retain or end any unwanted sexual attraction, and no state agency shall infringe upon that right, it reads. Parents may obtain such counseling or therapy, which it isn't, for their children under 18 years of age without interference by the state. Ex-gay reparative or conversion therapy is known to cause depression and may increase the risk of suicide, and has been outed, if you will, by people who used to be part of these programs as junk science because they themselves were gay and voraciously tried to not be gay, but guess what? They're gay and they hurt the world trying to prove that you could become ex-gay. It's all a mess of stinky feces and lies. Kern's third bill would allow broad discrimination encoded into law, take on the increasingly popular religious freedom restoration acts that are sweeping the country in the wakes of legalized same-sex marriage. Kern's legislation specifically targets the LGBTQ community for discrimination. No business entity shall be required to provide any services, accommodations, advantages, facilities, goods, or privileges related to any lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender person, group, or association, it reads. Under this bill, anyone can discriminate against a member of the LGBT community for no reason at all, for any reason at all. They could just say, "cuz." And an LGBTQ person could literally be shunned by their entire town, able to purchase food, rent, or buy a home, buy a car, gasoline, insurance, clothing, or even electricity. They can find no doctor in their town that will provide medical attention. If an LGBTQ person were to have a heart attack, a private ambulance service or EMT could legally refuse to assist or take her to the hospital. The hospital, if private, could legally refuse them service under current law. So here we have Sally Kern, an unabashed, absolutely open and honest, raging bigot. There is not a shred of Christianity in this woman. Not one. She demeans the word Christian. It's nauseating. The second we have here is from also Oklahoma State Representative, one Todd Russ. He is seeking to find a solution for the pesky problem of gays trying to get married, outlawing secular marriage altogether. Now, in Mr. Russ's version of this particular vile legislation, he would make it a requirement for a religious person of authority to sign off on a marriage license before a marriage license could be issued. which would be a clear violation of the First Amendment. So it's a non-starter. Not that any of Sally Kern's bills are ever going to get passed either, but these are all very clear shots across the bow coming from the socially conservative Christian community that they are unabashed bigots. They are savages. They are morally bankrupt and morally repugnant. As I just mentioned a minute ago, they demean the word Christian. Christ had 2 rules to follow. You don't even need hands to count them. Love thy God. Love thy neighbor. That's it. And these people don't know how to do that. He gave you 2 rules to follow. And neither of these state reps can follow them. Now, the problem with Mr. Roos's particular version of this disgusting nature is that there are religious leaders right now that have been willing for ages, for decades, to sign off on same-sex marriage. The law prevented them from doing it. So state laws, such as constitutional amendments to the state constitutions that said that marriage is between one man and one woman, those have been violating the religious rights of those religious leaders for decades. Now, there's another problem with this. What if you are a cisgender heterosexual couple who are atheists? What if you are a cisgender heterosexual couple who don't want a religious element in their wedding? I, for example, have been married twice. And in both circumstances, there was no religious leader involved. It was a state-issued marriage license. The person conducting the ceremony had a JP license, a Justice of the Peace. The only religious element in either of my ceremonies was the ones invoked by myself in my second one and in my first ceremony for myself and my first wife. Our vows were the only religious element of those ceremonies. The rest of it was purely secular, which is the way we wanted it, because neither of us recognize religious authority. My wife doesn't recognize it. My first wife doesn't recognize it. I don't recognize it. So this law would mean that I could not be issued a license unless I put myself under the authority of a religious leader of whom I do not want, nor respect, nor recognize. Now, for a long time, people have said, well, the solution to this whole problem was to get the government out of marriage. Well, guess what? Marriage has been a secular institution for decades. I'm taking the opposite point of view. I think it's high time we get religion out of marriage. Marriage is a secular contract endorsed by the state between 2 people. In my state, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, because we have marital equality in New Hampshire. And that's going to be the national law very shortly. We have 36 states already. The rest are going to be brought to heel anytime now. Even though they're going to fight tooth and claw, just as these 2 representatives have shown. But let's get religion completely out of this. Let the religious folks be in charge of the wedding ceremony. You get the weddings. The state, the government, gets the marriage licenses and the marriage. So when you say you're married, it is a state-recognized legal contract between 2 people. Though, I personally have no problem with polygamous relationships. But that's a different issue. I just want to throw that out there in case someone throws that back at my face. Also, I am discussing people that can legally get married. Most places require you to be 16 or older, though I believe there's a number of states that allow you to go younger than that. Massachusetts at one time was 12 for girls and 14 for boys. That may have changed. I'm not sure. So please don't throw animals in this, and don't throw minor children below the age that they can get married. Don't try that, because I can guarantee you somebody's gonna. Get the religious folks out of marriages. Let them have the wedding ceremonies and leave the legal marriages to all the people and the rest of us. You want to have your wedding ceremony without a license? Go for it. I almost considered a hand fasting in my first wedding, but I decided to actually go for a proper wedding. Kind of wish I'd gone with the hand fasting, because that means I wouldn't have been legally married to my first wife, and it would have made the separation a whole lot easier. Divorce is expensive. But I think the marriage should just belong to the secular community. And guess what, folks? The United States is a secular entity. Like it or not, that is reality. So there you go, folks. Oklahoma seems to be A-OK with bigotry. So I say we speak to these folks and tell them otherwise. Because there are people in Oklahoma that are against this, and they need to talk to these representatives.